Life is happening for you, even the pain. Ladies and gentlemen, let me take you back to a moment in my life when I thought I had it all figured out. I had built empires, changed lives, filled stadiums with fire, certainty, passion. But then, boom, one signature, and I was on the hook for 125 million. Do you know what that feels like? Like your soul just got dropkicked, like someone hit delete on your identity. But I'm here today to tell you something. That 125 million loss, it was the greatest gift God ever gave me. Why? Because the pain woke me up. And I want to teach you how to use your pain, your failures, your betrayal, your rock bottom to become a weapon of transformation. Phil, IT, follow Y, Doni, Eskati, APA. And when I lost 125 million, I wasn't thinking about growth. I wasn't thinking about life lessons or breakthroughs or how I'd one day tell the story to thousands of people across the globe. No, I was thinking about how to make the pain stop. I was angry. I was humiliated. I was questioning everything I'd ever believed about business, about people, and about myself. I wanted to punch a wall, scream into the void, blame the people who lied to me, who abandoned ship when things got hard. I wanted a villain, someone to point the finger at, someone to absorb the impact of that much loss. But that's not what happened. What happened is I made a decision that changed my life. I sat with it, I owned it. And that is one of the most difficult things a human being can do, to feel something in its rawest form and not run from it, to not distract, not explain it away, not bury it under business or substances or excuses. I didn't numb it with alcohol, I didn't drown it in noise or fake solutions. I didn't build another business to cover the emotional debt. I sat with the pain, I felt it, all of it. And that, my friend, is the first step to reclaiming your power. Most people don't want to do that. Most people run. They run to the bottle, to social media, to toxic relationships, to food, to anything that gives them 5 seconds of not having to feel. But here's the truth you need to hear right now. Pain doesn't go away just because you ignore it. It stores, it hides, it waits, and then it shows up again, disguised as another failed relationship, another business misstep, another self-sabotage. Pain is not your enemy. Pain is your teacher. Pain is the signal that something within you needs to grow, something within you needs to be seen, and maybe, just maybe, something within you needs to be healed. It's a compass pointing you toward your next level, but you'll never find it if you run. I didn't know then, when I was staring down the barrel of that 125 million collapse, that the pain was actually a gift. I didn't want a gift. I wanted a refund. I wanted justice. But what I got instead was transformation, and it didn't come from the fix. It came from the feeling. So here's what I'm asking you to do right now, wherever you are in life, whether you've lost a business, a marriage, your health, your identity, stop running. Stop trying to be strong in a way that shuts off your emotion. Stop trying to pretend you're fine when your soul is screaming for your attention. You don't need a distraction. You need direction. And that direction comes when you lean in and ask, what is this pain trying to teach me? Sit with that question. Journal it, meditate on it. Talk to someone you trust. Scream into a pillow. Cry if you need to. I cried during that season. I cried in private behind closed doors because I didn't want the world to see a man they considered invincible get broken. But brokenness is not weakness. It's honesty. It's access to real power. When you stop resisting the pain, it stops owning you. When you stop hiding from the ache, you start healing. You stop repeating the same cycle. Because if you don't feel the pain now, you will repeat it later. That's not a theory. That's the truth. You either feel the pain now or repeat the pattern forever. I've coached millions of people. I've seen billionaires and addicts, Olympians and single moms and CEOs, and I'm telling you this, the ones who rise are the ones who face the pain, not the ones who fake the strength. Pain reveals what you value. Pain reveals what's broken. Pain reveals where you've outgrown your past but haven't stepped into your future. Pain is not something to fear. It's something to follow because it leads you to the place where real transformation begins. So the next time you're hurting, don't just ask how to make it stop. Ask, what is this here to teach me? What's on the other side of this pain that I would never reach without walking through it? Because what nearly broke me, what felt like the end, was actually the beginning of a version of me I had never met before. And if you're willing to feel it fully, to go into the fire without flinching, you'll meet that version of you too. Oh, divine yours to you, if I've 100% responsible, here's the hard truth. When I lost 125 million, I didn't lose it overnight. It wasn't one bad deal or one moment of misfortune. It was a series of decisions, my decisions. Some were small. Some were rooted in hope instead of hard facts. Some were made with trust that wasn't earned. I wanted to believe in people. I wanted to believe in the story they sold me. But at the end of the day, I didn't do my due diligence. I didn't ask enough questions. I didn't listen to the whispers of my gut, and I didn't lean into the warning signs that were waving like red flags in the wind. And guess what? That's on me. Now, was it fair?
No, of course not.
There were lies, there was deception, People I cared about walked away clean while I held the wreckage. But was it my responsibility? Absolutely. 100%. No hesitation, no hedging, no excuses. Because here's the principle I've lived by and taught to millions: you want real power, then take full responsibility. Not 50%, not 80%, 100%. Ownership is the birthplace of power. Until you own your choices, you are powerless to change them. You are a prisoner to your circumstances, a slave to your past, and you hand the keys to your life over to whoever you blame. But the moment you say, this was mine, I created this, I allowed this, I shaped this experience through action or inaction, that's the moment you get your power back. Most people don't want to do this. They want to blame. Blame feels good in the short term. It gives you something to point at, someone to carry the weight of your pain. It says, I'm the victim here, and maybe you were. But listen carefully, victims stay stuck, owners move forward. There was a time after that 125 million loss where I could have thrown in the towel. I could have retreated. I could have played the poor me card and gotten sympathy. But sympathy doesn't build a comeback. Ownership does. I remember sitting in a room, looking over documents, and it hit me. Every single one of these decisions had my name on them. Maybe someone lied. Maybe someone manipulated, but I let them in. I didn't investigate. I didn't protect what I'd built with the same fire that I used to build it. And that was the truth I had to face. You want to change your life? Then stop giving away your power through blame, because the second you blame your ex, your boss, the economy, the market, your childhood, your team, your business partner, you are saying, they control my outcome, they control my joy, they control my future. That's not strength, that's surrender. You want a breakthrough. Take responsibility for everything. Yes, everything. Doesn't mean you take on shame. This isn't about beating yourself up. It's not about guilt. Guilt is useless. Responsibility is powerful. One keeps you stuck. The other moves you forward. When you say, it's my fault, you're not shaming yourself. You're freeing yourself. You're saying, if I created this mess, I can also create the solution. And that is the greatest truth in the world. If it's your mess, it's your miracle. The most powerful leaders in the world, the most successful people, they have one thing in common: they own everything. They own their wins, they own their losses, they own their triggers, they own their blind spots. Because when you own something, you can transform it. And that's what I did. I didn't rebuild by blaming, I rebuilt by owning. I dissected every choice I made, I studied it, I learned. I asked myself the tough questions, even when the answers hurt. And through that fire, I forged a new level of myself, a version that was stronger, wiser, more strategic, more aware. So if you're facing a setback right now, a failure, a heartbreak, a financial mess, stop and ask yourself, where did I give my power away? What did I not want to see? What responsibility have I been avoiding? Because the moment you stop pointing fingers and start pointing thumbs, that is the moment your life changes. Ownership is the door. Power is what's waiting on the other side. When I was staring down that 125 million hole, when everything I had built, everything I had trusted, and everything I thought was secure was falling apart in front of my eyes, I heard a voice, not from someone in the room, not from my business partners. This voice came from inside me. The 3 Ps, you're finished. They're gonna laugh at you. You lost your edge. You're not who they think you are. It was cold. It was relentless. It was personal. And let me tell you something, if I had listened to that voice, if I had made the mistake of negotiating with that voice, I would not be here today. You ever heard that voice? It's the voice that whispers you're not good enough, not ready, too broken, too late. I call it the inner terrorist, because it hijacks your future, holds your potential hostage, and feeds off your fear. And here's the truth, you've got to burn into your brain. You cannot negotiate with it. You can't reason it. You can't give it time, attention, or justification. You have to shut it down. Fast and hard, because every time you listen to it, you give it oxygen. Every time you repeat its lies, you give it power. And if you give it enough space, it becomes your belief system. And once a lie becomes a belief, it starts to shape your reality. Your thoughts become your emotions become your behaviors, and your behaviors shape your destiny. So what do? You kill it with truth, with repetition, and with certainty. That's how you rewire your brain. That's how you shift your identity from the inside out. You see, most people think affirmations are soft. They think speaking truth in your life is some feel-good, new age fluff, but they're wrong. Affirmations are a neurological reprogramming tool. Your nervous system doesn't know the difference between a truth and a lie if you repeat it with enough emotion and frequency. Say it enough, feel it enough. And your body starts to believe it, you start to believe it. And when I was at my lowest, I didn't just say things, I shouted them. I declared them. I embodied them, not because I believed them at first, but because I refused to let that inner terrorist win. I didn't just speak positive, I spoke truth. I am more than my worst mistake. This is not my end. This is my beginning. God is setting me up for something bigger. This breakdown is my breakthrough. I didn't whisper these things. I said them with emotion, with fire, with certainty. I said them in the mirror. I said them driving in my car. I said that my mind stopped fighting and my nervous system said, okay, let's go. And it's not magic, it's repetition, it's wiring. It's training your body to feel aligned with the new beliefs so deeply that the old ones get drowned out by the power of who you're becoming. Because here's the truth, if you don't speak into your mind, the world will. If you don't tell yourself who you are, your doubts will. And they don't play fair. They use your past against you. They use your words. They use your regrets. But you have something stronger. You have truth, and truth is a weapon. Truth is a fire, is a sword that cuts through the fog and says, I'm still here. I'm not done. And I'm not giving up. So the next time that inner voice shows up, the one that tells you you're not enough, the one that drags your past into your future, don't argue. Don't negotiate, don't validate, replace it. Replace it with power, replace it with vision, replace it with the voice of God, the voice of purpose, the voice of truth that says, this isn't how the story ends. This is how the story gets good. Say it until you believe it. Say it until you feel it. Say it until every cell in your body agrees with it. Because the moment you stop negotiating with your limiting beliefs, you start negotiating with your destiny. Phi NDTE, strategy EHSUFNGRIG, when life punches you in the face, and really hits you, it's easy to just feel the pain and stop there. Most people do. They sit in the hurt and the betrayal and the loss. They relive it, they replay it and let it define them. But pain wasn't meant to be a place you live. Pain was meant to be a signal. It's a messenger, not a prison. The real question is, what's the message? When I lost 125 miller, the pain was enormous. I was angry, I was embarrassed, I felt betrayed. But above all, I was disappointed in myself. And instead of pretending it didn't happen, instead of burying it or running from it, I did what most people never think to do. I studied it. I dissected it. I pulled it apart piece by piece, not to judge myself, but to understand where I went wrong. That's where the gold is, the transformation happens. Not in the suffering itself, but in what you extract from the suffering. Because inside every failure, every heartbreak, every collapse, there's a strategy waiting to be revealed. Let me break this down for you. When I looked back at that deal, I didn't just ask, how did this happen? I asked, what systems failed? What patterns did I ignore? What decisions did I make emotionally instead of intelligently? And suddenly clarity showed up. I saw the red flags I brushed aside because I didn't want to deal with confrontation. I realized I didn't take full control over the legal structure I handed over power too easily, trusting that others had my back. I recognized that I didn't vet my partners thoroughly. I listened to their pitch instead of researching their patterns. And that right there became a blueprint. That failure turned into a playbook. Now, every time I enter a deal, I run it through the lens of that breakdown. It's not paranoia. It's intelligence born from pain. It's experience turned into strategy. You've got to reverse engineer your breakdown. You've got to extract the principles from the pain. Ask yourself, what did I miss? What did I tolerate that I shouldn't have? Where did I hand over my power? Where did I move fast when I should have slowed down? Where was I passive when I should have been precise? Because if you don't do that work, you'll repeat the pattern. That's how people get stuck. They get hurt, and then they avoid that part of life. They lose money, and they fear investing again. They go through a bad relationship, and they build a wall instead of building wisdom. But if you study your failure, it becomes your feedback loop. It becomes your professor. And once it teaches you, you've upgraded forever. You've got to get obsessed with learning from your pain, not just surviving it. Because survival isn't the goal. Evolution is, and pain, when processed right, is the fast track to evolution. So here's what I did, and what I want you to do. I wrote it all out. I documented everything I did wrong. I made a checklist of what I'll never do again. And I created a new standard, a non-negotiable protocol for how I operate in business, in relationships, in leadership. And that's why now, even after losing 125 million, I operate from a place of more clarity, more precision, more power than I ever have. That loss became leverage. That suffering became strategy. That breakdown became my breakthrough, not because time passed, but because I went back in and mined the gold. So don't just move on. Don't just get over it. Don't numb it. Study it. Learn from it. Write it down. Make it your curriculum, your failure into a framework. Build your future off the bricks of your past. When you do that, nothing is wasted. Every scar becomes sacred. Every loss becomes legacy. Because when pain teaches you it can't own you anymore, you turn the page and you write the next chapter with the wisdom that only fire can give. Rasi, you are standard, far WHOSUROMD, yourself, wage. One of the most expensive lessons I've ever learned, literally, was these never compromise on the quality of people you allow into your inner circle. When I lost 125 million, it didn't just vanish because of a bad economy or a freak accident. No, it happened because I aligned myself with the wrong people. People who lacked integrity. people who didn't have skin in the game, people who looked good on paper but were poison in practice. There was one partner in particular, he was the son of billionaires. He had access, he had the right last name, he talked the talk. Deep down, I knew he was the black sheep. I knew it, I had a gut feeling, I had a whisper in my soul telling me something was off, but I ignored it. I let credentials blind me to character. I let perceived potential override personal responsibility. And that choice cost me, not just money, but trust, time, and peace. Never again. You've heard the phrase, your network is your net worth. But let's go deeper. I'm not just talking about money. I'm talking about emotional equity, spiritual equity, energetic integrity. Who you surround yourself is either fueling your future or draining your destiny. It's not neutral. People are either adding value to your life or subtracting from it. They are either multiplying your purpose or dividing your focus. You need to raise your standard. Stop keeping people around just because they've been there a long time. Stop doing business with people because you hope they'll change. Hope is not a strategy, character is. You want to know one of my new filters? It's this: never do business with someone you wouldn't want to be stuck in a foxhole with. If bullets were flying and your back was against the wall, would this person fight with you or run? Would they have your six or save themselves? That question reveals everything, because here's the truth: business is war. Life is war. And who you go into battle with matters. Are they aligned with your values? Do they tell you the truth when it's uncomfortable? They take responsibility for their role in setbacks, or do they shift blame, hide from hard conversations, and show up only when things are easy? After that loss, I got crystal clear. I reevaluated every relationship in my life, professional, even familial. I asked you, does this person inspire me or do they drain me? Do they challenge me to grow or do they coddle my comfort zone? Do they walk with integrity when no one's watching, or do they only perform when there's something to gain? And yes, it was painful. I had to let some people go. People I had history with, people I had built with. But once I raised my standard, my energy shifted, my clarity sharpened, my results exploded. Look, talent is common, character is rare. And in a world where image is everything, you've got to be the kind of person who values what's under the surface more than what's on the surface. Anyone can dress up nice. Anyone can talk the talk. But integrity is revealed in the pressure. Loyalty is tested in adversity, and true partnership is proven not when things go right, but when everything goes wrong. You want a high-quality life? Start with high-quality people. You want to make better decisions? Start by surrounding yourself with people who hold you to higher standards. People who stretch you, people who protect you, people who call you out and call you up. Because proximity is power. Who you're around is who you become. If you spend time with people who complain, you'll adopt their language. If you're around people who cut corners, you'll start justifying shortcuts. But if you're around lions, people of discipline, integrity, and vision, you'll start rising to match their level. So take inventory, audit your circle, audit your boardroom, audit your friendships. Don't do it from ego, do it from truth, because your future deserves better than dead weight. Your dreams deserve people who protect them. Your mission deserves warriors, not just watchers. Raise your standard, surround yourself with excellence. And remember that you don't rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your systems. And your inner circle is part of that system. Build it wisely, because the cost of the wrong person isn't just money, it's momentum, it's peace. And that's a price you never want to pay again. OV fast, even one chin URE bleeding. When I lost 125 million, I had every reason to freeze, every reason to stop, every reason to sit there, stunned, defeated, paralyzed by the weight of what just happened. The voices in my head told me to pause, to retreat, to recover. But that's not how power works. That's not how momentum works. And that's not how breakthroughs are born. I had 125 million reasons to shut down, and instead I got obsessed. I remember the moment clearly. I could feel the fear in my body. My stomach churned, my chest felt tight, my confidence was shaken, but I didn't wait to feel better. I didn't wait for motivation. I didn't wait for perfect answers. I picked up the phone. I gathered my team. I said, let's go. We're going to fix this. We're going to find a way. We restructured deals, renegotiated contracts. We reached out to partners and clients. I moved. I acted. I refused to let the bleeding stop me from building again. And here's the miracle of motion. We solved in 11 months, not 5 years, not someday, 11 months. Not because I had all the answers, but because I had the willingness to move forward before I had the clarity. Let me tell you something that changed my life. Clarity doesn't come from sitting still. Clarity comes from engagement. You want to wait until you're confident? You'll be waiting forever. Want to wait until it's all lined up? You'll miss your moment. The path gets clearer the more steps you take. Even if you don't know how it's all going to work out, take the next step with boldness, with courage, with urgency. Speed is power, and momentum is magic. The faster you move, the more doors open. The more action you take, the more feedback you get. And feedback is the fuel that accelerates your breakthrough. But most people hesitate. They wait for a sign. They wait for someone to give them permission. Let me give you that permission now, MOV. Now, EVNWILEOUREB. Look, pain is part of the process. Bleeding is part of the battle. If you're going through something hard, you don't have to pretend it doesn't hurt, but you do have to move anyway. Motion is medicine. When you move, you generate energy. When you act, you build momentum. When you make progress, even an inch, you regain your power. I didn't heal from that 125 million loss by sitting still and sulking. I healed through action, through creation, through problem solving. I asked better questions. I demanded more from myself. I pushed through the resistance. And on the other side of that pain was purpose. On the other side of that failure was freedom. I know it's hard. I know you might feel like you're carrying a mountain on your shoulders, but I'm telling you, if you wait until you're ready, you're already late. Life rewards the bold. Success belongs to those who refuse to quit. It's not about having no wounds. It's about not letting your wounds define you. You have to move even while you're hurting. You have to act even when the plan isn't complete. You have to sprint while you're still limping, because the very act of moving will begin to heal you. The very act of pushing forward will start to restore your confidence. You don't need to fix it all today. Just take the next step. That one step will change your state. That next call will shift your focus. That decision to move, even with trembling hands, will trigger a chain reaction of growth, grit, and greatness. It's not about perfection. It's about persistence. It's about showing up, broken and bleeding if you have to, but showing up nonetheless. Because every moment you move forward, you prove to yourself that you are not the victim of your circumstances. You are the author of your comeback. So let me say this to you loud and clear, and don't wait. Don't hesitate. Don't overthink it. Move. Run even if your legs shake. Speak even if your voice cracks. Act even if your heart is still healing. Because action is the bridge between breakdown and breakthrough. And your time is now. REANCOR, your identity. When I lost 125 million, I felt like the ground was shaking beneath me. All those years of hard work, all the sacrifices, all the success I had built, I watched it disappear. And in those moments, it's easy to get lost. It's easy to let that loss define who you are. It's easy to tie your self-worth to your bank account, your business, your success. The truth is, I began to question my value. I felt like a failure. I felt like I had let people down, like I was no longer the person I thought I was. But here's the key: you are not your bank account. You are not your mistakes. You are not what they say you are. Too many people tie their identity to external things: their job, their money, their relationships, their reputation. But what happens when those things are stripped away? Who are you then? If your identity is anchored in external circumstances, you're in for a rough ride, because the external world is constantly changing. It's unpredictable. You can't control it. And when it shifts, as it always does, it will shake your sense of self if your identity isn't anchored in something deeper. So what did I do? I re-anchored my identity. I didn't let that loss define me. I didn't let the opinions of others shape my belief in myself. I went back to my roots. I remembered why I started in the first place. I remembered my true mission: to serve, to empower. The truth is, when your identity is rooted in contribution, when your sense of self is tied to making a difference in the world, you can survive any storm. I didn't have to get back on top to be of value. I didn't have to rebuild my wealth to be a worthy person. I was still me, the same me who had a vision of serving others, of impacting lives, of giving people the tools and the power to create change in their own lives. That mission was never tied to how much money I had in the bank. It was always tied to what I could give, to the difference I could make. So I took a step back and I redefined myself. I remembered that my value comes from who I am, not what I have. I am not my failures. You are not your failures. You are not your mistakes. And you are certainly not your bank account. Your worth is immeasurable, and it has nothing to do with your financial situation, your title, or your social status. It's about the energy you bring to the world, the impact you create, and the legacy you leave. What anchors you? What is the foundation of your identity? If it's something outside of yourself, something that can be taken away or destroyed, then you're setting yourself up for pain. But if you anchor your identity in the things that matter most, your mission, your values, your purpose, nothing can ever shake you. Not failure, not loss, not what anyone says about you. I've had to rebuild my life more than once, but I've always known that I am not defined by what I've lost. I'm defined by what I'm committed to. My identity is anchored in the people I serve, the change I create, and the legacy I'm building. And when you root yourself in contribution, when you focus on how you can serve others, you realize that no matter what happens, you can always rise. You can always reinvent yourself. And here's the best part. When you serve with a true heart, when you give from a place of purpose, the rewards follow. But they're not the reason you do it. You do it because it's who you are. You do it because it's what you were born to do. You do it because it fulfills you. So ask yourself, what are you anchored to? What defines you at your core? Is it something fleeting or something eternal? Is it your financial success, your career, or your title? Or is it your ability to create change, to uplift others, to leave a legacy that impacts the world long after you're gone? If you want to survive any storm, if you want to come back stronger after every setback, you must anchor yourself to something greater than yourself. Anchor your identity in your mission. Anchor it in your values. Anchor it in your power to serve and empower others. Because when you do, nothing can stop you. When your identity is rooted in something deeper than external circumstances, you will always find a way to rise no matter what happens. Stay G-R-A-T-2 to U-N-T-L-I of U-N-S-T-O-P-A-B-L-E. When I was facing the aftermath of losing $125 million, there was one tool I relied on above all else to get me through: gratitude. Every single morning during that crisis, I'd wake up, jump into my cold plunge, and scream out loud, I said G-U-I-F-T. It wasn't easy. In fact, there were times I didn't feel like saying it. There were times when everything inside of me wanted to give into despair, to focus on what I had lost, to dwell on the mistakes I made. But I didn't. I chose to train my mind and my nervous system to focus on what I still had. I didn't feel like saying it at first. I didn't wake up feeling grateful for the mess I was in or the pain I was experiencing. But I wasn't saying it for how I felt in the moment. I was saying it to reprogram myself. I was saying it to shift my focus from scarcity to abundance. I was saying it to remind myself that no matter how tough the situation was, I still had so much to be thankful for. And let me tell you something. When you start stacking gratitude, it transforms you, it shifts your energy, it changes your perspective. Here's the truth. If you stack what's missing in your life, you get depression. You begin to focus on what you don't have, on what's wrong, on everything that's out of your control. It becomes a downward spiral, and before you know it, you're trapped in a mindset of lack and you feel powerless. But the opposite is also true. If you stack what you have, you build power. When you begin to focus on what you've been blessed with, you raise your vibration. You shift your energy, you start seeing opportunities instead of obstacles. And when you operate from a place of gratitude, you can't help but feel unstoppable. You see, gratitude isn't just a feel-good practice. It's a tool for building resilience. It's a way to rewire your brain for strength. I don't care what you're facing, whether it's a financial setback, a personal loss, or a challenge that feels insurmountable. Gratitude is your superpower. You can't change the circumstances, but you can change how you show up to them. And gratitude is the key to showing up with power, with resilience, and with an unstoppable mindset. I want you to think about this for a moment. Trade your expectations for appreciation, and your whole life changes. Expectations are a setup for disappointment. When you expect something and it doesn't happen the way you want, it leaves you frustrated and angry. But when you trade those expectations for appreciation, everything shifts. You begin to see the value in the things you have, even if they're not perfect. You begin to realize how much you have to be grateful for right now, even in the middle of your struggle. And that's the key. Gratitude doesn't require perfection. It just requires you to open your eyes and see what's right in front of you. When I was going through that crisis, I didn't just have to be grateful for the big things. I had to be grateful for the small things. I was grateful for my team. I was grateful for the lessons I was learning. I was grateful for the strength I had to keep going. I was grateful for the opportunity to rebuild. And as I stacked those moments of gratitude, I felt my power returning. I felt my energy shifting. I felt the fire within me reigniting. This is what I want you to understand. Gratitude as a practice. It's not something you do once and then move on. It's something you stack day after day. Every time you feel the weight of the world on your shoulders, pause and remind yourself of what you still have. Find one thing, then another to be grateful for. And as you do, you'll start to feel the weight lift. You'll start to feel your energy rise. You'll start to feel unstoppable. Gratitude isn't about ignoring your problems or pretending everything is perfect. It's about acknowledging that even in the darkest moments, there is always something to be thankful for. It's about shifting your focus from what's wrong to what's right. It's about training your mind to see the abundance in your life, even when everything else seems like a mess. And as you do that, you'll find that your power comes back. You'll find that you can handle anything. You'll find that no challenge is too big for you to conquer. So every single day, I want you to practice this. I want you to stack your gratitude. I want you to make it a non-negotiable part of your routine. It doesn't matter what's happening in your life right now. When you wake up tomorrow, take a moment to appreciate the gift of life. Appreciate the fact that you have the power to create change, to grow, and to overcome. Stack your gratitude until you feel unstoppable. Because when you do, nothing, and I mean nothing, can stand in your way. I don't care what you believe, whether you believe in God, the universe, the source, or divine order. What matters is this: you better believe in something bigger than your bank account. In life, money can be lost, fame can fade, success can be fleeting. But there is something far more powerful, far more unshakable than all of those things combined, and that is your connection to the divine, to the spiritual foundation that supports you through every challenge, every loss, every high and low. When I faced the loss of 125 million, I found myself on my knees, feeling stripped of everything I had worked for. In that moment, I couldn't rely on my wealth. I couldn't turn to my accomplishments. All the things I had thought would sustain me were no longer there. But what I found in that surrender was something sacred, something far stronger than any material possession or achievement. I found my faith. I found my connection to something greater. I found strength not of this world, but of a divine nature. And that spiritual strength became my greatest ally. You see, we're all going to face hardship. Life will test us, and sometimes those tests will feel unbearable. But the one thing that can't be taken away from you is your faith. It's your spiritual immunity, and it's what will keep you grounded when everything else feels like it's falling apart. No matter how successful you are or how much money you accumulate, there will come moments in life when material wealth will not be enough. When that happens, the only thing that will carry you through is your spiritual foundation. In Islam, we are reminded in the Quran that hardships are a part of life. Allah says, do not kill yourselves. Indeed, Allah is ever merciful to you. So Quran 4:29, even in the darkest moments, we are reminded that we are never alone. Allah's mercy and strength are always available to us. Every hardship we face is a test, and every test is an opportunity to strengthen our relationship with Allah. That is the true power, the strength that comes from having faith, from knowing that even in our hardest times, we are being prepared for something greater. But in order to access that strength, you need to invest in your spiritual immunity. Just like you would take care of your physical body, you need to nourish your spirit. You need to pray, to meditate, to trust in the process. And you don't do it because you're being punished. You do it because you're being prepared. You're being prepared for something beyond your understanding, for a greater purpose that will unfold as you walk through the trials of life. In Islam, we are encouraged to pray and to turn to Allah in times of distress. The Quran says, indeed, prayer prohibits immorality and wrongdoing. Quran 29:455. Prayer is not just a ritual, it is a source of strength, a way to reset your mind, a way to find peace in the chaos. Through prayer, we connect to the divine, and through that connection, we find the guidance, the peace, and the resilience to move forward even in the toughest times. Along with prayer, meditation and reflection are key to building your spiritual immunity. Take the time to pause, to reflect on your life, your journey, and your relationship with Allah. When you meditate, you're not just seeking answers from the world around you, you're seeking answers from the divine. You're seeking to strengthen your faith, to build a sense of inner peace and stability that will carry you through any storm. You need this time to reconnect with your soul, to restore your spirit, and to realign yourself with your higher purpose. And above all, trust that every trial, every setback is part of Allah's plan for you. Trust that there is wisdom in the hardship you face, and that through this process, you will emerge stronger, wiser, and more aligned with your purpose. Trust that when you surrender, when you lean into your faith, Allah will guide you through it. The Quran reassures us, and whosoever fears Allah, he will make a way for him to get out from every difficulty, and he will provide him from sources he never could imagine. So Quran 65:2-3. That is the ultimate power, the knowledge that no matter what you face, there is always a way forward, always a path that leads to growth, transformation, and greater connection with the divine. So in moments of loss, in times of challenge, turn to your faith. Don't retreat into despair or self-doubt. Instead, turn inward and invest in your spiritual immunity. Build your relationship with Allah, strengthen your connection to the divine, and trust that He will provide. Because when you have that spiritual foundation, nothing can shake you. No loss, no setback, no challenge will ever define you. You will always rise, always find strength, always move forward, because you are anchored in something greater than yourself. Take ITTRURPIANTO PBUR. When I lost 125 million, it felt like the end. I went through every emotion imaginable: shock, anger, confusion, despair. But what I didn't know at the time was that this pain was not a punishment, it was a lesson. It was a test that would prepare me for something much greater than I could imagine. And once I came out of the fire, I understood that my journey had a purpose far beyond my own success. It was about what I could do with what I had learned, about how I could turn my pain into power for others. That's why I'm here today. That's why you're here. Because once you've survived the fire, once you face the darkest moments of your life and come out stronger, you don't sit in silence. You speak, you serve, you shine. Your story, your journey, your scars, they have power. They are the keys to unlocking someone else's transformation. The world needs your scars. The world needs your story. Every challenge you've faced, every setback you've overcome, every painful moment you've experienced has prepared you to lead. What you think disqualifies you is what actually qualifies you to lead. You are uniquely positioned to help others because of the battles you fought. Your scars are not weaknesses. They are symbols of your resilience, your strength, and your growth. They are the living proof that you have what it takes to overcome any obstacle and that you are capable of showing others the way. When I faced the loss of 125 million, I thought it would destroy me, but it didn't. It refined me. It reshaped my perspective and my mission. I realized if I could come back from that level of failure, I could teach others how to turn their own failures into fuel for success. If I could show others that it's not the mistakes you make that define you, but how you rise from them, I could help them build a new kind of strength. This is the power of teaching. When you take the lessons from your own pain and turn them into teachings for others, you create a ripple effect that can change lives. It's not just about your recovery. It's about using your recovery to inspire and uplift those around you. It's about turning your journey into a blueprint for someone else's success. You see, your story has the power to heal, to motivate, and to ignite change in the lives of those who need it most. One of the biggest mistakes we make is thinking that our pain disqualifies us from leading or helping others. We think, I've failed, I've been through too much. Who would listen to me? But the truth is, your pain is your greatest asset. It is the bridge between where you are and where someone else is. Your story gives others permission to face their own challenges head on. It shows them that it's okay to stumble, it's okay to fall, but it's not okay to stay down. And when you turn your pain into power, you give others the courage to rise. This process of teaching, of turning your scars into lessons, is not just about sharing knowledge. It's about sharing the emotional wisdom you've gained, the strength you've built, and the resilience you've developed. It's about showing others that no matter what happens, you can choose to stand up again. Your ability to turn pain into power doesn't just heal you, it heals those around you. It creates a community of people who are no longer afraid of failure, who are no longer afraid of their struggles. Instead, they are empowered to use those struggles as stepping stones toward their own greatness. I can tell you from personal experience, there is nothing more fulfilling than watching someone else take the lessons you've learned and use them to create their own success. It's a humbling, powerful moment when you realize that your pain, something that once felt unbearable, has become a source of light for someone else. That's the true meaning of turning your pain into power. When you teach others, you don't just help them, you also solidify your own learning. The act of teaching forces you to revisit your journey, to reflect on the lessons you've gained, and to constantly evolve. Every time you speak about your story, you are reprogramming your own mind to believe in the power of transformation. You are reinforcing the idea that setbacks are not the end, but rather the beginning of a new chapter. And in teaching others, you are reminding yourself that your purpose goes beyond just your success. It's about lifting others up, helping them rise, and guiding them to their own breakthroughs. So don't be afraid to speak. Don't be afraid to share. Don't be afraid to shine. The world needs what you've been through. The world needs the wisdom that only you can offer. And the truth is, the more you share your journey, the more powerful you will become, not just for others, but for yourself. Your pain, your scars, your story, they're your gift to the world. And when you teach it, you turn your pain into the greatest power you've ever known. Te poro philosophy it you fiend yourself. I lost 125 million. I lost sleep. I lost fake friends. But in that loss, I found something unshakable. I found something far more valuable than any dollar, any business, or any connection I thought was important at the time. I found something that would never be taken from me again, no matter what the world threw at me. I found certainty in the storm. I found a mission that was deeper than money, deeper than any material possession I could ever accumulate. I found a purpose that would drive me for the rest of my life. And I found a God who doesn't break you. He builds you through the breaking. See, when everything around you is crumbling, when your world seems to be falling apart, you have two choices. You can either let it destroy you, or you can let it build you. And in that moment, I decided to let it build me. I decided to find my strength in the struggle, my peace in the chaos, and my power in the pain. Because that's where transformation happens. So let me ask you, what are you willing to lose to find who you really are? What are you willing to give up to discover the person you were always meant to become? Sometimes, the very thing we fear losing the most is exactly what we need to let go of in order to grow. Sometimes we have to lose everything to find ourselves. If you're going through hell right now, if you're facing a storm that seems like it's never going to end, if you're battling demons, whether financial, emotional, or mental, right now is the moment to decide who you will become. You don't stop, you don't retreat, you rise. Because no matter how heavy the weight feels, no matter how deep the pit feels, you were made for this. You are stronger than you know. You are more resilient than you can imagine. And the only thing standing between you and your next level is the decision to rise. And remember this, the strongest sword is forged in the hottest fire. The fire is where you get tested. The fire is where you get forged. The fire is where your true power is unlocked. It doesn't matter how many times you've fallen. It doesn't matter how many times you've failed. The only thing that matters is what you do now. The world needs you. Your family needs you. Your mission needs you. You are here for a reason, and whatever you're going through right now, whatever you're facing, it's not the end of your story. It's just the beginning of a new chapter. You were made for greatness, you were made for impact, and no setback, no failure, no loss can ever take that away from you. So go get forged, get stronger, get wiser, get bolder, and rise into the greatest version of yourself. Because on the other side of this storm, there's a version of you that will be unrecognizable, not in the sense of what you've lost, but in the strength and wisdom you've gained. That's the power of transformation. That's the power of going through hell and coming out the other side stronger. And remember, when you rise, you don't rise alone. You rise to show others that they can rise too. You rise to lead, you rise to inspire, you rise to become everything you were always meant to be. So step into your greatness. The world is waiting. Go out and conquer it.